Thank you, Terry. All right, look, ADRA take people places, better places to where they're at, and we literally go places. We fly a lot. So I'm going to ask you all to be upstanding, and we're going to be a bit of an aeroplane for the next 1 minute, because I noticed that we're all getting quite tired. We're a little exhausted. I also did notice that as we were supposed to transition from one hall to another, a lot of people just stayed here. So you need to do a little bit of walking too. So what we're going to do is this. We're going to imitate a plane, right? Yeah, that's it. That's a plane. Yeah, all right. So a plane, it starts to take off and the wheels start rolling, right? And as it starts to take off, it goes a bit faster. And now we're off, right? Faster. Okay, here we go. Here we go. There we go. All right, now we've got to turn left a bit because we actually left from Port Moresby. I never told you that. It's a long journey. Oh, yeah, here we go. Flying through the Pacific. Oh, look at that. It's Vila. Let's turn around. Port Vila. Say hi, Vanuatu. Say hi, Vanuatu. All right, now let's make our way via Apia. I have no idea if my geography is right. We're probably going backwards, right? One big triangle. All right, down to Suva. Bring it down now. And then from Suva, we're coming down into Australia. Okay, I can see Brisbane. It's right there. Next time I'll go reverse, right? Slowing it down. Slowing it down. All right, we got it. All right, everyone be seated. All right, are we awake? Are we ready? Good. Because I am really excited, eh? And when I say really excited, like really, 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 really excited, and I throw that out there 6 times, because they say that if it's really important, you need to say it 3 times. So just do the math on 6. It's that important. Super excited to share with you a new direction that ADRA is going in, right? In partnership with you, the local church. And the title of my talk today is No Roots, No Fruit. Really simple. You kind of get what that means, right? Quite simply, it means to truly be a healthy church, to truly be a thriving church, and therefore a growing church. I'll say that again. To truly be a healthy church, to truly be a thriving church, you're a growing church, and in that order, you need strong, deep roots into your community. So what do I mean by roots? I mean a deeper level of connectedness, relationships, right? You know, we've all often heard that question. What would happen if your church disappeared? Would anyone notice? Have we all heard that? Put up your hand. Can see some hands? Yeah, we've heard that, right? Well, the level of connectedness that I'm talking about, the roots that I'm talking about, is that if you disappear tomorrow, people wouldn't just notice, they'll come looking for you. Can you just imagine if we were an Adventist movement with true roots that look like that, right? Now, the church has this model. What is this model? We heard it this morning. The harvest model, right? And we heard this morning from Pastor Danny, the garden model. I love this model. You know what I like about this model? It's easy. You know, as a strategist, as a communicator, easy is the key to success, right? It's the pathway. This is really simple. We get it. 4 different areas. And, you know, we all understand in some way or form, you know, the nature of how you grow something and how you get the best results and yield from that. But where I think we're often lacking is in this area of preparing the soil, right? This relationship area. We're often lacking in this space. And, you know, it's my opinion, and I think it's your opinion too. It could be your opinion. But I think as a church, we could just do a lot more in that space, be a lot better in that space. And I'll give you a couple of very small examples. And just so you know, I've been at the General Conference for 10 years. So I've been away for a long time. I've only been back in the South Pacific for 5 months. I'm still learning my role. So my examples that I'm sharing with you today do come out of New Zealand, because it was the last place I worked when I was at the South Pacific. And it was also the place I was at last week where I got to visit some of our local churches to see what we're doing. All right, so what I'm showing you now is what I've seen so far. And if we see each other in 12 months' time, which I hope we do, because I want to come to all your different unions, I'll be sharing your stories with other people too. So about 14 years ago, we started a journey in New Zealand where, we had this vision. We wanted to deliver ADRA community projects through local churches. So we developed a new program, and we developed a menu, which was, our language for, let's just design 5 projects and see what projects would be successful and who would like to get involved in them. So we created this project called Welcome Baby, right? What a great brand, right? Great name, Welcome Baby. So Welcome Baby came through really good research, right? And I actually want to, where's my mate? Where's Tim? Shout out for Tim. If some of you are here right now, come for the session after me, because Tim's going to talk about research and data and the importance of really good data-driven approaches. But we looked at the research at the time, and you know what it told us? That New Zealand had the 3rd highest rate of teenage pregnancies in the OECD. Can you believe that? So we looked at this issue, and then we analyzed and we said, you know what, we can actually do something in this space. So we decided we're going to provide a program in local churches on a Tuesday night, on a Thursday night, where many of our grandmothers, right, who had done a great job bringing up their children, their children's children, but now that they had all grown up, they still had more to give. So we started this mentoring program where young mothers referred to by the local health services, the local high schools, the local, what is it called in New Zealand, Child, Youth and Family Department, would refer them to our local churches to come and meet someone in our local churches that will teach them, this is how you feed a baby, this is how you teeth, this is how you put a baby to sleep, and then that moral support surrounding that, right? And then in addition to this, we partnered with Sanitarium that provided food. We partnered with a clothing company that provided free clothing. And then that little mentoring service that happened every single week became the community of those young mothers. And then when the babies grew from 000 to 00, they'll go back and they'll change that box of clothing, because there was a clothing library, and they'll take the next. And then we'll chuck out all the things that had spoiled, and we'll add new clothing, to that, just for the next mother that would come along. That little project that we thought, you know what, we think we can do something in that area need with a group within our churches that, had some time. In the first 12 months of that program, we started 15 projects across New Zealand. How awesome is that, huh? Not only did we start 15 projects, the conference paid a third, the local church paid a third, and ADRA paid a third. And it didn't cost much because we had all these corporate sponsors and partnerships to help us deliver this program. Last week, I was in New Zealand, and I was chatting to a pastor. And this pastor was telling me about this new program that they've started. And, being an ADRA worker, I'm really big into, look, we need to do more than just hand out clothes and food, right? We have to do more than that. It's about the relationship. It's about developing that person, understanding the root causes of their issues and needs, and then addressing that. And I said, tell me, are you doing something that does that? And then he introduced me to this community dining program. And the program's really simple, right? It's, why don't we put a meal on every Thursday night for our community, and we're going to eat with them, and we're going to talk with them. We're going to do life and community with them. So every week there's 30 from the church, 30 from the community or more, and they sit, they eat, and it's just like any other family meal. You talk about the politics of the day, you talk about fuel prices, they talk about the new All Black coach, they talk about the resurrection of the Blues and how good the Auckland Warriors are going. Go the Wars, right? Yeah. Okay, there we go. Come on, go the Warriors. But then they can't ignore the fact that they're in a church hall, and they look over and they say, what's Pathfinders? And then they start talking about this club that kind of resembles Scouts but kind of doesn't. that does a little bit more. And then they look to the other side and they say, tell us about that Health and New Start program, because I see that poster on the wall. And then they start having these organic conversations about church, our faith, and the pillars that make us who we are today. And you know the best thing about this community dining program? It happens every single week without fail. Now, do you understand what I mean by roots? Roots that go deep will bear good fruit. And here's some more pictures of this project. Now, I don't want to shift us a little bit, give you a big global perspective of ADRA. So last year, ADRA supported, here we go, 10.8 million people. Is that a big number? Put up your hand if that's a big number. It's 2 New Zealands. Is that a big number? 2 New Zealands. Yeah? It's a big number, biggish number, right? Yeah, I think so too. Until I go through my notes and I realize that in 2020, we supported 35 million people, 1.5 times the size of the Adventist church today. So from 10 million to 35 million. And I ask you a question, and there's a giveaway in that photo. How did we get to 35 million in 1 year? How did we do an additional 20 million people odd? What's the answer? COVID? Who said that? So smart. COVID. There's a giveaway there, right? COVID. Right? And the reason why we supported 20 million more people during COVID is because, in 98 countries, is because the majority of all those new projects was in partnership with the local church. 70% of. Now, this was 2020. This happened in 98 countries. We saw the impact straight away. We measured it. We knew it as an ADRA office. We knew it as a union. We knew it as local churches, because it was during a time where our church doors were legislatively shut, right? Not just shut because we had an issue with our lock, but legislatively shut. But our arms were wide open, and we were sharing the love of God through action. Question: what would our communities look like today if those projects continued? Just being real right now, right? Think of your own local churches. Think of what you did. Think about what would happen if you were still helping or connected to that community today. I'm going to flip that question. What would our church look like if those projects continued today? Think of your own local churches, your leaders in some of your local churches. If you're a mission president, a union president, a secretary, a treasurer, what would your church, your union, your mission look like today if we continued? And now I'm going to steal somebody else's comment. But 2 weeks ago, Daniel Duda, who's the president of Trans-European Division, did this presentation at the General Conference meetings. And Daniel Duda did this amazing presentation that actually looked at physical church buildings, and he measured all of the hours that they put into it each week, and it was actually 2.5 hours on average, right? Just imagine if our churches shifted from being worship halls to mission centers. And, I just want to repeat a comment made earlier this morning. I think Gary Krause said it right. It was 7%. Our churches are utilized 7% of the week. I pulled out my calculator, put that into hours, 10.8 hours. Now, I don't know about you, but we have our stewardship director with us. Is that stewardship of what God has blessed us? Of that beautiful building that would often have a big car park, that would have a kitchen, that would have a hall, that actually has people that go to it, which means volunteers. is that good stewardship of how God has blessed his church here in the South Pacific? So we've developed a new program, it's ADRA, and in partnership with the church. So this new program is called Mission Ready, and it's really simple. It just has one small goal: to put a community center or service in every single Adventist church across our entire division. Right? Just a small goal, right? That can bring huge impact. And it works like this. It's not a program, and it's not an event. It's a platform, right? And the platform has three key parts. There's the training side, there's the funding engine side, because look, I've been a church member and I worked for the church long enough to know the first thing that is said whenever anything new is introduced to a local church: oh, we don't have the people and we don't have the money. Well, let's eliminate that issue and see what God can do, right? We have a God that can make miracles. Like we heard that right here on the stage in this very spot, in fact, last night, right? And then there's the project side, that third dynamic. So there's a resource being developed, and it's going to be online. It's also going to be offline. And this was a video, but it's not playing, so I won't share that. But quite simply, online, it will be a self-paced, interactive, multi-language program, and we're actually looking at building in AI, right? ADRA uses a lot of AI within our centralized systems globally, just so we can produce things a lot quicker. So what we mean by AI is, while we do our asset mapping within the church and we realize how God has gifted us and what we've got for ministry, AI would help us by putting in our district, our postcode, whatever identifiers tell us who our community is, what the biggest needs are in those communities, and then it will fit it to our asset mapping within our churches. So that's how AI will be used. The program will also be an in-person program, because we understand that contact's a big thing for our church. So we've developed a train of trainers program. It's a collaborative approach. It's flexible. There's a facilitator's guide, and there's a lot of tools that churches could utilize as they workshop this together. The program is pretty much 4 units in terms of the training program. The first unit is the why. Our churches need to understand what ministry of compassion is and their role in it, right? It's a personal thing. But they need to go on a journey as a church as well. The second unit is about our church, our community. And on the church side, it's about understanding what does the church bring to the table, what is it being gifted and blessed to do. And on the community side, it's actually saying, yeah, we're same, but a little different. So what are we going to do to actually address that issue that's actually quite unique to our postcode? And then unit 3 is the actual design of the project. That's the fun stuff. And 4 is actually taking all the assumptions away. The big assumption is if you put out a resource and put out some good support materials, people will know what to do with it. So unit 4 is the next step stage. So our church people will know how to actually prepare a proposal that they can take to their boards, their committees, to actually get the entire church on board. Because this has to be an initiative owned by the church, not by 4 people. And you're smiling because you know what I mean. We see it all the time. The pedagogy of the program, or the learning methodology, is very simple. Know, think, and do, right? The whole training program is based on three words. So I'll give you an example. This is Unit 2, which is our church, our community. And these are just some of the early parts of the resources. But know is about, this is the information you need to know to be challenged to go on the journey. Now you internally reflect on that. Think is about, how do we as a group go on this journey, discuss it together, and understand how God has truly gifted our church to be more involved in our community. And then do is when you actually get into the tools, where we actually put a problem tree in front of you and you just populate the different fields, and that will help you understand what some of the issues are in your community. And then you can go through another process called the 5 whys, where you ask a series of questions which unpack what the true root cause is to this issue in the community. And that's how you know what it is that your church could be doing. So they're very simple tools, not designed for ADRA, designed for you. And this is my way of actually doing a big public apology. ADRA is this amazing professional agency. It can be quite complicated for a local church though, right? So what we've done is we've taken what we do every single day and we've condensed it into a toolkit that is right fitted for our local church members. So then, going through this process, what could your actual project look like, right? And there's 3 key words, principles that we've developed that's guided us through this entire process. And the first one is, it needs to be needs-based. We're not going to develop a project just because our church members want to do that project, right? It's because that's the need within the community that has been identified, backed up by good data and research. They are the pains that the community is feeling, and we're going to address that. The second one is, it has to be church-based. And otherwise, we are going to design something that we know our churches can deliver upon with a little bit of help. And that's where ADRA come into it. We can provide the little bit of help either through ourselves in our network or through our partners who we work with on a regular basis. And the last one is, we're going to be country-specific. And this is actually a real challenge, and we're only going to do this one through prayer. We're a big division. We're not just 4 unions, we're a division of multiple countries, many countries in fact. It has to be country-specific because we can't assume the issues in Tonga are the same as the issues in Vanuatu or New Zealand or Australia. So we're going to develop and design projects that are based on these 3 key principles. So let me give an example of the process. And I've said it, I think, 3 times already. It's important to be data-driven, right? Now I'm going to share with you some data points from a recent research that was conducted. And if you're really interested in data and research and you like what you're about to see or don't like or concerned about what you're about to see, come to the next presentation, because the next presentation is by Tim, and Tim will share what he's doing in this space. But this is a local, a recently commissioned research program done in partnership with McCrindle, this massive research group, and it's looking at church perceptions in Australia and New Zealand. And the question was asked, in New Zealand and Australia, how open are you to attending a Christian religious service, either in person or online? 62% in New Zealand said not at all. What do you think they said in Australia? 62% in Australia said not at all. So we asked other questions. We asked, what do you believe is the benefit of churches to the wider community? Got to get the colours right. In Australia, the top 3 answers were helping those in need, provides people with hope, provides social connection. In New Zealand, the same 3 answers in a slightly different order. So while on one question people are saying, no, we're not at all interested in a Christian religious service, they're saying, but this is the role that we see fit for you as a local church that exists in my local community. So then we went one step further and we actually stopped making it about us. We made it about them. Hello, that's what we should do as a church, right? Make it about the people. Thinking about the year ahead, which of the following areas do you expect to be your primary source of stress? 57% in Australia said financial pressures, cost of living. 62% in New Zealand said financial pressures and cost of living. Second, at 39 and 40%, emotional well-being and mental health. How can we as a local church just ignore that? Right? You can't.
Not if we are to be a church with true roots in our community. Because when somebody's coming to my church and they want to talk to me about life, because we talk about life before we talk about God, how can I not look at that and think, what can I do as an individual, but what can my church do as a church family to address that need? So that's the first step of designing a project. Now, thankfully for the church, we have this organization, this wonderful ministry called ADRA, ADRA, the Adventist Development Relief Agency, that can actually do this for you. So in terms of projects, let's just say, for example, because we haven't commenced this part of our platform journey, let's just say we looked at the area of financial literacy, and why not, right? The data's telling us that financial pressures is going to be the biggest thing stressing us out over the next little bit. And I think that if we did the same research, and we should, in the Pacific, I don't think it's going to read too much differently in that space. But let's just say we started a financial literacy program. Well, we've already got a wonderful program. Our stewardship department at the division have developed this program called Mastering Money, and we're running it through the Pacific. And it's a biblical finance-based program. And it works really well in the Pacific, right? And it's all about how you master your money. And I just want to say that there is a workshop on this tomorrow at 2:15 Hall 2. Main hall, right? So if you're interested in this, please, 2:15 tomorrow in the main hall. Great program. But let's just take this as our example, right? Now I'm putting my Agile lens and I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, but we can actually do more. Like, that's a great launch pad, right? Training people how to look after their money, how to be good stewards of their resources, how to save, how to budget, how to pay down debt, all of that stuff, right? But how about if your problem is you just don't have enough money, or you have money, right? And I'm looking from a Pacific perspective in the islands, but also in Australia and New Zealand. And I want to show you a photo that I love showing people, right? What do you think we're looking at right now? What are we looking at? Just yell it out. It's okay. What's that? People in a hall. All right. Does somebody want to advance that thought? People in a hall. What kind of building is it? It's a church. Where's the church? You're going to get this wrong, so I'll just tell you. West Africa, Ghana. All right, but you were trying. It's good. I can see you trying. Now, here's the question. Who's sitting in that hall? That church building, sorry. Who's sitting in there? Church members. Yes, you're correct. But not just church members. 50% of the people in that building are church members. Do you know who the other 50% are? Muslims from the local community. Do you know why? Every single month, they meet at this church to discuss the new techniques and how you do cashew farming. And then they come back again, and when it's almost season, they'll bring their cashew apples, because, you know, the nuts grow on a shell that grow on an apple. They taste the apple, and they do their measurements and their forecast, and they say, we're about 6 weeks away from harvest, and it's going to be a bumper season. Then they come back again the next month, and then we start looking at the first kernels and the first shells, and we say, okay, we're thinking we're pricing at this above the premium. Then they come the following month, and they sell all their cashews within that church compound, because that local church in Ghana, in partnership with many others that ADRA have created, have become the economic hubs of their rural communities. Can you imagine that in our countries, people are coming to the local church, not just for a service, but to actually develop their livelihood? Because at the end of the day, the most thing that's important to them when they do life is education for their kids, good health care for their families. So what's stopping us from adding something like this? We've got this wonderful resource here on how to be good stewards with your resources, but could we go one step further? And then just imagine, I love the just imagine question, right? Like, remember, we have a God of miracles, like we all remember last night, right? Just imagine if we did that across all our nations. And then if you happen to be a farmer in a particular crop, you knew that I had to go to a local Adventist church because all the farmers that go there just do better and they get better prices. And then, of course, we've got this wonderful agency called ADRA that have a whole trading system behind it to actually support this. All right, here we go. Now it's getting serious, all right? We're talking about New Zealand and Australia. Can you take that same program into New Zealand and Australia? Without going through the research, I'll just tell you no. It's very different. Culturally, it's very different. Like you know, you get in your countries that 62% of everyone in your country in Papua New Guinea, as an example, would actually say not at all interested in a Christian service. Different context, so it has to be a different program, right? And the reason why the All Black symbol is bigger is because they've won the Bledisloe Cup for 23 years, so why not be bigger, right? Sorry, I had to. And I'll do it again and again. So we need a partner. And sometimes as a church, I don't know what it is, but we get lost within ourselves, right? It's like if we don't develop it, then it's not good enough for our churches or our people. Well, there are other good experts out there. So for New Zealand and Australia and in the Pacific, if there's a good program out there, we'll need to work with them, right? And if we can't come up with a deal where they can work with us and deliver services through our local churches and our facilities for our people and the wider community, then we can create this ourselves. We can, because God has blessed us with the right people to actually do this. So, I've given you one example. It's in the area of financial literacy. And that's not telling you that that's what we're going to do. It's just an example, right? How about in the area of strengthening families? You know, we heard a presentation this morning about family ministries. How about if we developed a program that really addressed the areas within our families right now, right? And how about disaster support, emergency response? Just imagine if we developed a suite of resources that was country-specific to your context, right? And when I say we develop it in partnership with you, right? Because we're experts, but you're experts too because you live in the community. You understand these challenges. You understand the ability and the extent that your church can deliver a program. Just imagine if we had these programs and then we were that organization that was, yes, that orange sign, but to the local community, no, that's the organization that really cares about my livelihood. If I want a better life for me, if I want education for my kids, that orange logo, that's where I need to be. That orange logo, you know that orange logo? We got to make Adventism mean more than just that orange logo. And we know it means the Seventh-day Adventist Church. That's a name. But what does it mean? Not in your eyes, but in the eyes of our communities, right? That's what we need to do. So what's next? Well, we're putting a lot of pressure on our team, and we're doing this as a division-wide initiative. We're working with all our country offices. So can you please raise your hands if you work for ADRA and you're in the building right now? There you go. Oh, a lot of hands. There we go, a lot of hands. All these people have been a part of this, right? So the next step is, in the month of May, we commence the development of our ready-to-go projects. These are the projects that I was suggesting just then. I gave you examples. We're actually going to sit down with small groups, good qualified people in our different countries, and we're going to design until we come up with the perfect product that's going to meet and address the needs in our communities that we can deliver on behalf of our churches. We're also going to complete our Mission Ready platform, and that will be done by July. And then in September, we're hoping, and this is where I'm praying for a miracle, I'm talking to all my union administrators that are in the building, we're going to finalize our funding engine. Because if this is going to be something we want to see in every local church, then this is actually just a key part of church. It's not a church plus, it's not an add-on, it's not an optional thing. No, we're a church that preaches the love, but we share the love of God through our actions. Well, the money needs to follow the mission. I'm quoting another quote from this week, right? The money needs to follow the mission. And just lastly, it's really ambitious. We want to be ready to go by 2027. I know that's not far away. That's what, 8 months? But why not? We need to be ready by 2027 because there are people out there that need our help right now, quite simply. In closing, and I call this my biblical case, doesn't have to be yours, but it's mine. You talk like this when you're a non-minister talking to a whole bunch of ministers. You actually get quite nervous. So my biblical case. Why do we need a program like this? Now, I'll give you the answer through my lens, from a church strategy perspective, right? If our strategy is growth, making disciples, and we've heard it all this week, then I think of Mark 8. Why do I think of Mark 8? Because Jesus fed the 4,000. What does that mean to me? Well, it's the context. You see, the 4,000 were fed, right? Because the 4,000 were there, right? And that's the part of the story that I love the most. People often look at that story and they talk about, what was said, how they fed them, what was left. But for me, it's how did the 4,000 people get there? Because that was in Decapolis, that's the land of Gentiles. They had no reason to be there because they weren't even believers. Like you ask anyone on the street right now, go to this venue just because they'll go there if the values align and if they can see that connection. But everyone in Decapolis heard the amazing miracles that Jesus did. And if you just track that back 3 chapters to Mark 5, the last time he was actually there, he just stepped off his boat just for a few moments. He cast out a legion of demons, and then they told him to go. Right? They were terrified. Yet 3 chapters later, he's back there, and there's 3,000, 4,000 people that stayed with him for 3 days listening to Jesus speak and preach. From a church strategy perspective, when you want to truly outreach and reach those that are almost unreachable, right, like the Gentiles, you need to take the Mark 8 approach. And you need to do that by sharing the love of God in practical means. But then even more than that, and this is the one I lean into the most, it's Micah 6:8. Like, for me, it's really simple. We all know Micah 6:8. What does God require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. At ADRA, globally, we've adopted this as our motto. Justice, compassion, love. That motto is actually our mandate for the organization to do what it's been called to do, which quite simply is to serve humanity so all may live as God intended. That's our purpose statement, right? No different from the SPDs, actually, to inspire hope and wholeness of life in our communities. So when I think of biblical cases, and again through my own personal experience, I look at this and I think, well, if this is what God requires of me, it's because my faith journey, my faith walk puts me in this position. And then as a local church of believers that come together, it puts us in this position where we need to love on our communities. And by sharing the love of God and by developing those deeper roots, they will want to become part of our faith community. Earlier in my presentation when I was opening, I said, if you are truly serious about being a healthy church that is thriving and therefore growing, you need to have roots. You can only do that by getting the healthy part right. And for me, Micah 6:8 is the healthy part, right? God, that's all God requires of us. If we do our part, we truly live that in our lives daily, and we challenge our church family to do the same thing, we arrive in this place. And then it's not part of some big strategy for our division that we're going to do X to achieve Y, so this thing converges with that, and then by this year we're going to... It just happens. Thank you. Nah, you know what? I haven't finished because I've got more time. So if I've got more time, I'll just use it. Why not? Questions? Any questions? Do we have a roving mic out there? Because I'm going to pick on people soon, like, you know. Any questions on any of it? Yeah, brother, Julian. Yep. That's the plan. By 2027, the process starts in May, identifying the right people to work with ADRA. By 2027, we'll have the menu locked down for each country and each union. And it doesn't mean everyone needs to follow that. It just means there's some ready-to-go options, because there are some churches that actually have the abilities within to actually do something that's very specifically designed for them. Great question. Thank you, Julian. Tony.
Hey Matt, Tony Parish from Dunedin in New Zealand, Otipoti. Just wondering, can ADRA help us as local churches find good sources for that data-driven approach that you talk about, like discovering those sources of good solid data to help us recognize possibilities in our cities?
Yes, we can. You know, ADRA have access, you know, to a lot of that information, and that's actually what we do. Be it overseas or in country, we look at those trends. There's also some really good tool sets out there that are all free that help you to do that too. But we can help you do that, but the church can also help you do that too. And again, I encourage you, Tim's workshop right after this, you're going to learn so much more about what data's out there. Any other questions? If you scan this QR code, you can go to a page that you can register your interest, and then we'll start contacting you, right, when we're ready to go. Thank you.